Welcome everyone to another session of the PowerCat AI webinars. Like I say every time, if you've gone to previous sessions before, we're happy to see you again. And if this is your first time, welcome. We've got a really great session today. Here are your hosts. Well, I'm Ashley. I'm going to be behind the scenes with questions and polling. And then we have our other host, Dwayne Robinson, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey guys, I'm Dwayne Robinson, Principal Copilot Architect in Copilot Studio, working in the PowerCat team. So today we're going to be talking about specifically what was new in Copilot Studio, what was announced at Build. Again, I'm Dwayne Robinson, Principal Copilot Architect now, used to be a Principal Program Manager. And you can scan this QR code if you'd like to be able to get in touch with me. I think it gives you a link to my LinkedIn, my X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. And then it has a link to the YouTube channel that I do for Copilot Studio Dude. So at any of that type of stuff, if you guys are interested, feel free to go out and take a look at that stuff as well. This is just things that I do to help the community. So with that said, let's kind of talk about a couple of things really quick. We'll start with just Copilot Studio in general. So just be aware that Copilot Studio is our end-to-end SaaS that allows you to be able to build agents yourself and be able to extend first-party agents inside of the Microsoft Copilot ecosystem. And so as you're taking a look at this whole presentation, we're going to be focused in on Copilot Studio today. We're going to talk about all the different ways that you can use Copilot Studio and some of the enhancements. What I will tell you is that we have decided that in this session, we're going to lean more in on being able to make it interactive versus playing the recorded demos. Now, at the end of the session, we do have the demos that we're showing at Build so that we can showcase those to you guys. So if you want to see the demos, hang to the end and we'll make sure that you get to see those. But we're going to err on the side of answering your questions more so in this particular session and making it more interactive. With that, let's go ahead and go and talk about momentum. So you should just be aware Copilot Studio now has over 230,000 organizations using Copilot Studio. Seems kind of weird being a guy who was here back all the way in bot framework world to be this number of organizations and just the massive growth that we're seeing. And so what we're going to focus on today as far as what's sort of new and what we announced at Build, there are three major areas that we're going to focus on. And we're going to start with the making information workers more productive, which is going to be your M365 Copilot and Copilot Studio working together. Now, if you're not familiar with this too much, just know that for individual productivity, we have like this ability to take the M365 Copilot and extend it and be able to provide capabilities that are beyond what M365 Copilot can do right out of the box. You'll see it branded as Copilot Studio. You can kind of see it over there on the right side with in the little animation here. But just be aware, this is Copilot Studio in sort of a light version that's being used to be able to do extensibility for the M365 Copilot. And it has a lot of different capabilities and different examples that we have around like performance coach, meeting planners, developer tutors, and things like this. So let's talk more about what we've announced and what are the new capabilities coming into the embedded agent builder. So we've got a lot of new things that are coming out. Some of the stuff I like to kind of call out is going to be the UX enhancements that we've done. So a lot of people were like, I want to make it easier to be able to share and be able to edit and be able to make it more integrated with the M365 Copilot. You're going to see us actually lean in on that a lot more so that way you guys can get a more integrated experience where it's not so jarring between the two different products. So you'll see this become tighter, but again, we did a lot of this with like being able to edit and share directly in the UX. We also have Office entity knowledge. This is where we're going to make it where the Teams chat history or Outlook emails, calendar information, and Office entities are just known to the agent. And so while you could do this with M365 Copilot, we couldn't necessarily add that as knowledge when you're doing extensibility. But now we're actually able to do that. So that's going to be one of the major things that we did announce at Ignite. Another thing is going to be knowledge recommendations. So in this case, we can recommend to you different pieces of knowledge that you might want to use, like your most recently used files and things of that nature. So when you're trying to build the Copilot agent piece using the embedded agent builder inside of the M365 Copilot with Copilot Studio, it's one of these things that it makes it where you're starting to scope things down. It's not just search over everything you have access to. So a lot of people wanted to be able to do this, and being able to give you what are knowledge things that you might really be interested in, are sort of really cool things that we added in. We also added in direct file upload, and what this means is that let's say that you are building and you have SharePoint and content and document libraries. Everybody already knows you can do that. But now we're actually going to make it where you can take a file that maybe isn't in your SharePoint or isn't in a specific location, and you can just drop it in to your agent within the embedded agent builder, and it will just work. It's sort of like that upload a file capability that's in Copilot Studio native. It's basically in that same sort of realm. So other things, just be aware, is like public web scoping coming in. This is just basically allowing you to use public websites and being able to use that as knowledge. And we also have collection of user feedback as well coming in. All right, so as we go in, let's shift over to outside of the M365 and Copilot Studio together, just going straight to Copilot Studio itself and being able to transform enterprise business processes. So this will be Copilot Studio's core and its abilities within itself, just standalone. So when we think about this, we've got the ability to be able to build these different agents that people are looking for, everything from a customer service agent to a sales agent, HR, invoice processing agents, and things like that are running in an autonomous fashion. And you pretty much see that we go through a normal process of build. You guys have probably seen this all before, where we talk about the different stages of how you're going to build something and determining like what's triggering the agent, how are the channels that you're going to go through, custom topics, and going through a publishing process and monitoring and improving it and extending it as well using Azure AI Foundry. So we're going to kind of talk through those details and what are all the new capabilities that are coming in. Just know that the best way to do that is we kind of break it into different components here. So we're going to start with knowledge and kind of talk about the additional knowledge types that we started to add. And these new additional knowledge types are going to get more and more over time. Matter of fact, if there are knowledge types that we don't support today that you're interested in, definitely provide feedback through your sales team or through your contacts at Microsoft. We're actively monitoring that from our field to be able to synthesize that back and figure out what are the key ones. And you'll see these are the ones that we announced at Build across the board. And you'll see some extensibility that's actually starting to come here and more stuff. So, things like, and if you see here where it says GA, that just means the general availability of that particular feature. So you're already starting to see a lot of new capabilities coming in, everywhere from OneDrive to Salesforce, and ServiceNow is unstructured, but you'll also see ServiceNow and Salesforce as structured under advanced. These are going to be different ways that we are indexing that content, and just be aware that there's a lot of new stuff happening in that space. So let's kind of talk a little bit more about that. So one of the things that I'm actually really excited about was the fact that we announced fine-grained control over your RAG pattern. Now, what this means, don't think of this as, oh, it means that I'm manipulating the model. It's more it's the ability for you to go in and really go into it and say, hey, here's the model I want to use. Like you can see up in the kind of upper right hand corner of that little small of the icon here, that it's like GPT-4o is the default. So if you wanted to roll that to 3.5 turbo or something like that, and then how long or how short do you want the response to be, and then giving it additional stuff. This is you playing with the default out of the box implementation. So it's not displacing the model, but it's giving you the controls you want over that model. And just know that there's also a lot of other things that we're doing around quality enhancements. We are also doing some custom prompts per data source. So if you say this particular data source, I want to behave in this way and format in this way versus that way. We also have allowing you to choose the model that you want. Again, we talked about that. You can kind of see that in the fine-grained control. And then we have analytics enhancements, which we'll talk more about in the analytics side, but know that there's a lot of enhancements for you to be able to figure out and debug and determine quality that's coming. So I'm going to jump to the next one here, which is going to be the AI enhancements that came about. And the one I'm going to start with is going to be computer use. And computer use, in my mind, is one of the most impactful things that we're looking at. So a lot of people want to interact with different things and that don't necessarily have an API. And so if you think about this, if you guys are familiar with our RPA tool, that would allow you to be able to go in and say, let's click this, then click that, and then go through a process through the UI of something to go collect information. It's sort of that same concept, but imagine it where it can look at what's on the screen and read what's on the screen of the website and be able to navigate it to help figure it out. So an example of this that I like to use, they did a different demo on the stage, but like imagine that you're trying to find your cell phone provider's coverage map. Being able to determine, is there coverage in your zip code or something like that, usually is some sort of web application. Now, whether you have access to that API or not to be able to look that up and be able to turn it into an action, this would allow you to be able to say, hey, here's the website to go look that up on, and then it can navigate the website and go get to the content without the need of an API to be able to go get the answer to that for you. So this is going to be super impactful, and I think a lot of people are going to see a lot of value out of this, especially for web applications and things of that nature. But it's not limited to web applications. It's just an example of things that I think you guys are going to really like. Also know that there's a native prompt builder that's coming in inside of Copilot Studio. Really, if you think about it, this is really where AI Builder is just becoming part of Copilot Studio in a sense. And then we also have agent flows, and agent flows are going to be basically your ability to build Power Automate capabilities inside of Copilot Studio, but using messages versus user licenses. Okay, so now let's move over to autonomous agents for a second. So autonomous agents, first thing is it is generally available. We had some templates that we put out. But the thing that was kind of the big thing that we talked about was deep reasoning in autonomous scenarios. And so when you're going to use this, you can just say use reason and then answer in your instruction set, you can do that. But know that oddly enough, you can actually do this as well in synchronous mode, which is like inside of a web chat. So if you go and you turn this on inside of the settings, just know that you have to turn this on in order for it to run. Then it will allow you, if you say use reason in your instructions of when to use something, it will use a reasoning model as part of this. And just know that when you do this, a reasoning model is not a summarization model tune type of thing. So a lot of people are thinking that that's what you're going to do here, but it's not really what you want to think about this. It's more, it needs to think about the content and make decisions based upon the content to be able to figure out how to do something. So a good example of this, and we were talking about this on one of our office hours calls internally the other day is a legal contract is a great thing to think about. Like, oh, well, you might want to reason over the content and the knowledge to be able to do something, or you need it to think really hard on what's the right combination of things to do in order to be able to reason out the best way to solve a particular problem. So just know this is now available and something that you can go play with. And this is actually shipped into our production environments. So I believe it's still in a preview state, but just know that it is available for you guys to go play with today. So you can go play with it right now. So let's move into the next one, which is going to be multi-agents. So multi-agents itself was a big discussion topic that came up. And sorry, I think someone's off mute. So in this, there's a couple of things that whoever's running the call can please check to see who's off mute and get them muted. Thank you. All right. So generative actions and orchestration, which is a major lifeblood of Copilot Studio, which is the whole new orchestration engine, went general availability. And in case you guys didn't know that, you should be aware of that. Now, that is a lifeblood of autonomous, and it is also the thing that's going to make it where you get dynamic chaining and all these things. And I've got some videos on my channel that talk about dynamic chaining and talk about all of this different piece. You guys should go check that out because this is probably one of the most important functions that we have released for Copilot Studio. So just know generative actions and orchestration are the lifeblood that's going to enable our ability to be able to do autonomous and everything else. And so it is a massive update that we have now put into general availability. And I have a dynamic chaining session on our video on my channels. You guys should totally go check that out if you haven't looked at it. Now, as far as multi-agent support is this concept where I can have an agent that is aware of other agents and what they're capable of doing and being able to bring them together. Now, a lot of people who know me know that I will tell you that this is not for you to go make Jarvis from Iron Man. But what you should look at is it will give you the ability to have like an HR assistant and an IT assistant and all of these different pieces and be able to orchestrate to the correct one that you need to use. So know that don't confuse this with the component model, which is component collections, where you're able to take pieces of agents and build them independently and release them that way. This is full agents being able to communicate with each other. So definitely want to, kind of use that as where it makes sense. And then know that there's also testing capabilities that we're adding to be able to help you troubleshoot this, as well as we announced multilingual support in the orchestrator, which means you go and you build all of your orchestration explanations, your model descriptions as to why to use tool A versus tool B and all of that. And the beauty is you could write it all in English, but then talk to it in Spanish or French, and it will just work because translation is part of what we're doing as part of this, and it will absolutely take care of everything for you and be able to go to different languages. Now, when I say this, the only thing to keep in mind is that if you build custom topics with words and things like that you've built, that is not actually being generated. So the non-generative stuff, you need to do the translation on those manually today. But just be aware that that is one of the things that we have added as capability. So being able to do multilingual has never been easier inside of Copilot Studio. And let's move on to channel improvement. So a couple of things we did in the channels is we also GA'd the custom engine being able to, so what this means is what we're able to do now is in Copilot Studio, you can build your own custom agent, and then you can treat the M365 Copilot as a channel. So you can just automatically go and create one in Copilot Studio. It can have its own runtime with topics and actions and all of those things, which you can't do in the inline builder. But now we can build that and use the full runtime that is Copilot Studio and publish it back in. And that became generally available. The other thing is that we also announced that you'll be able to publish to SharePoint. And so it's basically the thing everybody's been asking for, which is I want to be able to publish to a SharePoint website a Copilot Studio implementation or an agent to my SharePoint environment. We're making that available. And then we announced it's not out yet, but we announced that we are also going to bring a first-party WhatsApp experience. We do have partners that provide that today, but we're going to bring that as a first-party solution. For testing capabilities, and I'm going to knock these three out together really quick just because I feel like they group together well. Just know that testing capabilities are sort of a key thing that we've been making huge investments in. So we have this new activity map where you can actually go in and see why is the orchestrator choosing to go what direction and why it did what it's doing, and give you an enhanced view of that. So there was a major update to that just came out. You also are going to see the test case support, so us being able to come in and for you to be able to say, here are different things that I want to test, as well as being able to use AI-generated evaluations to go evaluate the capabilities of your agent and make sure that it's not just doing manual questions, but letting it run sample scenarios in its own way using generative AI to do that, to help you improve the quality. And then we even have evaluation testing results so that you can see, like, is it passing? Is it failing? How is it performing as part of your testing process? So again, this is around the maker experience and the tooling to help makers improve the quality of what they're building and making sure that they understand and get test results on how those things are performing. Now, I do want to jump to analytics because analytics kind of goes hand in hand with this. And analytics is going to give us the ability where we can say in product consumption. So if you want to know how many messages is this particular thing consuming, all the different business metrics that are associated with that, giving you visualizations, even giving you a forecast to how much it looks like you're going to consume, all of those type of things. That's what we're looking at being able to bring in. And yes, of course, because we have pay-go or pay-as-you-go, which is an Azure consumption mechanism, you'll even be able to look at that Azure meter to see what's going on with the Azure meter for that consumption. The other thing is ROI or capabilities to Viva Insights. We're going to make it where you can see what is the actual business impact of this particular implementation and how good is it performing against your different KPIs that you've built out, as well as quality of response. So when we look at this, how is it performing? Is it responding well? Are you getting good responses coming back out of your implementation in production, right? So this is the analytics side of it that we also added. So now let's go into building custom AI solutions and Azure AI Foundry with Copilot Studio. Like, what are we doing there to make that better? Because a lot of people, I like to tell people, it's not a should you use Copilot Studio or should you use Azure AI Foundry? They are meant to work together. So when you look at this, we're going to start tearing down these walls. We're going to make it easier and easier for you to do this. And so an example is, and we'll kind of start to the left and move to the right, is that Azure AI Search as knowledge, which allows you to be able to build your own custom indexes, your own custom search queries, that is actually shipped into general availability now. So then we move to the right and we go to replace the default model. So imagine you want to take your Azure AI Foundry implementation or your own models that you've built over in Azure AI Foundry, and you want that to do the summarization action or become the default model that you use in your agent, you're going to be able to do that, which opens the door to all the access to all the specific models that are out there, like the industry specific ones, so that you can just take those and make those available for you. So if you want to use a model because you're in financial services and that model is much more tuned for financial services, you can make that model available inside of Copilot Studio for you without having to rip out all of the other parts of the RAG pattern. You can just say, hey, this is the model I'd like to use. And that model could be fine-tuned, for example, if you needed to. And then connect to an Azure agent. This is where we kind of talk about the capabilities before, which we said, remember we were saying that you could connect an agent and multi-agent before to be able to do a Copilot Studio to Copilot Studio. We're also going to make it where you can do that across agents that are M365 or Copilot Studio agents, or even Azure AI Foundry built agents, being able to come in and be able to do this. And then with the MCS agent as a component for Azure solutions, again, this is kind of the opposite direction, allowing you to make Copilot Studio work inside of your Azure solutions. Now, there is one other piece that I noticed is not necessarily on these slides, but I want to kind of talk about, which is going to be MCP support was also announced. So when we talk about MCP support, and that is a model context protocol, that is where third-party agents being able to be plugged in will be a capability that we have also brought to the product, which allows you to be able to say, I'm going to take my third-party agent, and as long as they have created a MCP server, which is basically like a standard protocol server that defines that agent and how to communicate with it, what that does is it makes it available for you to be able to add into your Copilot Studio implementation. So these are really major capabilities that have really started to come into the product.
And so with that, I just want to say thank you guys. This has been a great session, and thank you for joining. Have a good evening, morning, afternoon, night. Yeah, see ya.